To monitor and combat anti-Semitism, Elan Carr.
I am proud to serve in the most pro-Israel administration this country's ever seen. You know, Senator Coleman, in introducing the president, used the Pesach Dayenu story. And I want to take a moment to reflect. Each and every one of those actions taken by this president by itself would have made this administration uncommonly pro-Israel, uncommonly pro-Jewish, each one by itself. And he has done all of them together. Defunding UNRWA, walking out of the Human Rights Council of the United Nations, closing the PLO office in Jerusalem, abrogating the disastrous, catastrophic Iran deal, recognizing Jerusalem as the capital, recognizing the Golan Heights, and all of that in one half of one term. One half of one term, 2 years. And so this president is in a league by himself, not only because of all of those actions, but because he has given us Vice President Mike Pence, and David Friedman, and Jason Greenblatt, and Jared Kushner, and the list goes on, and John Bolton. Does it get any better than that? Can it get better than that? Well, I'm here to talk about another great American leader that this president has given us, a great American leader from whom I am so privileged to bring you warm greetings today, and that is our great Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. My boss, and a real patriot. You know, that's the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, that took out of the human rights reports of the State Department the term occupied territories. That's Secretary of State. And by the way, when he was in Israel just now, going to the Kotel with Prime Minister Netanyahu, first time a Secretary of State has done that, he was asked at a press conference, you know, you took out the term occupied territories from the State Department human rights reports. Why did you do that? And he said in response, if you're asking me if that was a typo, the answer is no, that was not a typo. We choose our words very carefully. That was his answer. That's the Secretary of State who announced that we would be revoking the visas of ICC prosecutors who open war crimes investigations into U.S. troops. By the way, as a U.S. Army officer, I'm especially proud that this is the State Department we have today. And not only U.S. troops, but troops of the Israel Defense Forces as well. And that means if prosecutors of the ICC are going to be opening war crimes investigations into the soldiers of the two most moral, most decent, most law-abiding armies in the world, you ain't coming to Disneyland. No, no, you ain't coming to Disneyland. Governor Noem won't be able to take you to Mount Rushmore because you won't have a visa. That's the same Secretary of State who 2 weeks ago stood before 18,000 activists at the AIPAC Policy Conference and said, let me go on the record. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, plain and simple. That's what he declared, and that's the policy of the United States of America today, and that is a game-changing policy. It has never been said before. It has never been said before. And so I couldn't be prouder to represent this administration before you today, because these are urgent times, and we've heard it before. Anti-Semitism is on the rise throughout the globe. Attacks on Jews are happening throughout Europe. Rallies for economic rights are devolving into anti-Semitic orgies. Jews are attacked not only in Paris and Marseille, but in Brooklyn as well, in Crown Heights. In the United Kingdom, we have a Labour Party hijacked. So much so that the Jewish community of the United Kingdom stood together and said, this threatens our survival. A recent survey of Jewish communities in Europe reports that nearly 80% are reporting that anti-Semitism is on the rise in their country and threatening their existence. Jews are leaving Europe. For their safety, they feel like they need to leave Europe. There are statements by world leaders that call us insidious outsiders, that undermine their culture and their heritage. All of this is happening in the world today. And how proud we can be that in this turbulent, broken world, the United States of America unequivocally stands with the Jewish people in the state of Israel and says, we will not stand idly by. We will fight this everywhere it occurs, in every city, in every country, in every continent. And so let me tell you what we're going to be doing. Right after Pesach, I'm going to be going to Ukraine and to Hungary and to Poland and to Belgium. Then I'll be going to France and to the United Kingdom. I'll be going later to Latin America. And yes, I'll be going to the Middle East, because in this administration, our work will ignore no region in the world. No region in the world will be left untouched, because this crisis is too important and the safety of the Jewish people is too urgent a cause. And we're also not going to ignore any part of the ideological spectrum. Jew hatred is Jew hatred. And whether it's closed in the language of the ultra-right or in the ultra-left, it is still Jew hatred. And we are going to fight it, and we're going to call it out, and we are going to confront it. But not only are we going to be pummeling the anti-Semites and pressuring the recalcitrant, I want to give you some good news as well. We are also going to be supporting our friends and allies. When Mike Pompeo announced my appointment, literally at that very moment, I was on a plane at Dulles taxiing on my way to Europe. And I represented the United States at two conferences. A conference of the OSCE in Bratislava, a conference of the EU in Brussels. The first conference, convened by Slovakia in its role as rotational chair in office of the OSCE, was a conference in anti-Semitism. And the first conference, convened by Romania in its role as rotational president of the EU Council, was a conference on anti-Semitism. This is extraordinary. And I want to publicly thank Slovakia and Romania and Theresa May and President Macron and all of the anti-Semitism coordinators and all of the brave leaders who are standing up and fighting, because there are many who are fighting. We can always say we wish there were more, but there are enough. And that is the good news. Because when crises boil over, as this has, people stand up and fight. And these European leaders understand that anti-Semitism isn't only about the Jews. By the way, if it were, my God, that would be moral reason enough to fight it with every effort we can muster. But it's not only about the Jews. They understand, these leaders, that anti-Semitism is human history's greatest barometer of misery and suffering. And it is a vile poison, as President Trump called it just today and has called it before. And that vile poison, when embraced by a society, rots it to its core and produces human suffering at a level that defies description. That is the history. And so you want to fix the world? You want to uplift humanity? You want to rescue people from distress? This is the address. You fight Jew hatred. You end this sickness, this age-old sickness of humanity. That's how you make the world a better place. And these European leaders get it. And so I'm going to be supporting them. That's part of my role. Now, my friends, I want to close by talking about you. Because everywhere I go, I get asked, we are so afraid. We are so afraid by what's happening. We're afraid for our children. What can we do? How can we help? How can we fight this? And so I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now. You know, I'm going to fight this thing. I'm going to fight this either way. And I'm going to fight anti-Semitism with the full weight of the United States of America. That ain't too bad. But to beat it, to actually defeat this metaphysical hatred, Even the United States alone can't do that. There's something else we need, and that is the most elusive asset of all. It's called Jewish unity. And that's why I need your help. It is not enough. It is not enough to rally our community. It's great to do that, feels good, but it's not enough. We have to be emissaries of Jewish unity. We have to be ambassadors of Jewish unity because our future depends on it. I want to tell you a story. And this is not a good story, so prepare yourselves. We have a lot of students at this conference. I want to tell you a story about Stanford University. A brave, terrific student leader at Stanford University he's a student senator. He introduced a resolution in the student senate to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. Not controversial, folks. Let me tell you, the OSCE, the largest multilateral organization on earth, voted 56-1 to adopt this definition of anti-Semitism. Not controversial. And so this great leader, Matt, introduced this at Stanford University. And he had support because it's not controversial. But before the vote, Jewish groups came forward and said, we don't support this and neither should you because we are part of the privileged problem. We should be focused on oppressed minorities, not the privileged. And so you shouldn't support this. And Matt lost all the support he had. And so he pulled the bill because he didn't want an electoral defeat. Well, things got so bad in the intervening 2 months at Stanford. And when I say bad, I mean bad. A student leader said Jews are running the campus, and a visiting lecturer of the university minimized the Holocaust in a lecture to students. So the Jewish community said, we had enough. Enough is enough. This has to stop. And so Matt said, now's my chance. Now's my chance to get this passed. And he reintroduced it. This is fresh news. 3 weeks ago, he was texting me updates. And so he introduces, this time, pledges of support from 100% of the Student Senate. Until Jewish groups came forward and they said, we get it. Anti-Semitism is a problem. We'll withdraw our opposition on one condition. You take out the Israel stuff. Take it all out. If it doesn't mention Israel, we'll support it. And so Matt faced a choice. By the way, it's the same choice faced by some members of Congress a few weeks ago. Do you walk away and not get anything, or do you water down what you have and get something? I'm not going to pass judgment on what the right answer is, but Matt decided to water it down so he could at least get something. And so what passed unanimously in the Stanford Student Senate is that it is anti-Semitic to beat up Jews. Newsflash. But if you want to hang a blood libel on the Jewish state, if you want to say Israel is committing genocide or is an apartheid state, have at it. Green light. You know who did that to us? We did that to us. We did that to us. You know, folks, we can disagree on a lot of things. I mean, not we in this room, we in the world. We know how to do that. We're experts. But when it comes to our future, when it comes to our survival, when it comes to the world our children will inherit, how dare we? How dare we undermine our safety and our survival and our future? How dare anyone? That has to be the message. That has to be the menace. We just finished celebrating the holiday that is entirely about the defeat of anti-Semitism. That's what Purim is about. Not the redemption of slaves or the anti-Semitism of defiling temple worship. No, this is anti-Semitism in the purest form. Genocidal anti-Semitism that we have seen too many times in our history. That was the plot Haman had. And when Mordechai came to Queen Esther and said, for this reason God has put you here, please save your people. Queen Esther said, I will risk my life to do it. But first you tell the Jewish community 3 days of fasting. 3 days of fasting and mourning and sackcloth and ash. And then I'll go to the king. And the rabbi said, why? Why 3 days of fasting? The answer is because Queen Esther understood that without Jewish unity, we're lost. We're lost. But with Jewish unity, when we stand together shoulder to shoulder, and that's what it means to fast and mourn, to take collective responsibility for our condition, when that happens, there is nothing we can't do. There is no challenge we can't overcome. Even the imperial decree that was signed and sealed and delivered and the wheels of genocide turning, even that could be undone. If we only stand together, if we only fight together, if we only love each other and work together for that better future. And so, my friends, I close with this. Our obligation when we leave a conference like this and feel the motivation that it gives us is to go to every Jewish community and every synagogue and every JCC and every JCRC and carry that message forward. That when it comes to our survival, we stand together, ish echad belev echad, as we were at Mount Sinai. And then, if we can do that, we will make together tikkun olam b'malchut Shaddai and build that better world that our children, that our grandchildren so richly deserve. Thank you so very much. Thank you for all that you do. And God bless the United States of America and the State of Israel.